Welcome back to Light the Fuse, and the visual effects marathon is wrapping up. Is this it? Or do we have one more with Todd?
This is
it. Okay.
Yeah, this is part 5 of 5. You've been with us for 5 weeks, hopefully.
God bless you.
We found this stuff to be fascinating, so we hope you are finding it to be that as well.
Yes.
It's really cool, and we've got a bunch of great stuff coming up as well. We'll be diving away from visual effects. We've got on the books
editorial.
We got someone who's a very prominent editor. Mm-hmm. We've got someone who was a pretty amazing stunt person. Mm-hmm. Who you will be very excited to hear the movies who he was stunt doubling for,
right? And
for what years,
right?
Pretty awesome.
Yeah, you're making that pretty obvious.
And then we also got our first production designer.
Yeah.
So these are all in the books for the next couple of weeks. So knock on wood, all these interviews will happen, and you will get these over the next month.
We've had a couple of big people who have more or less told us to jump in a lake, but we're still
we're still on them.
We're still on them. We've got a couple more composers on the line.
Actually, one of them said to check in after Labor Day, so that's
okay.
We got to do that.
All right,
we got to check in. But we're very excited to share this final part of the visual effects marathon that we've been doing.
And
Todd was awesome. I mean,
he was
it
awesome.
So cool to talk to him finally about all this stuff, because as we've talked to him in this interview, his Twitter stuff, it's so great. Follow him on Twitter. I mean, he's just got so many
his
good,
Twitter
cool
is amazing.
things.
And obviously go see Skywalker in December, and go ride the ride in Florida in December, and Disneyland in January. Right, Rise of the Resistance.
Cool, yeah, because he worked on that ride as well.
Yeah, so we'll be back afterwards to kind of wrap things up, but that's it for us, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, enjoy the interview. Well, the other thing about that shot of him going outside of the building is that that's also the IMAX curtain raiser reveal.
Yeah.
Did you guys animate that the screen getting to full IMAX?
No, we left that for color timing and the DI to do, because we knew they would want to mess with the framing. As you know, we did the shot as an IMAX shot, so that means like the taller aspect ratio. So that whole sequence, anytime you're in an IMAX sequence, we did the full frame. And it's a real, with these movies that are partially filmed in IMAX and anamorphic, when it comes time for home video, it's time for them to make a choice. Are they just going to be consistent and have it 235 the entire movie, letterboxed? Or are they going to maybe open up to 16:9 and allow, that's still not the full top and bottom, but are they going to do that? And some movies have chosen to do that, either with animated, great gradations, like what you saw in the theater for Ghost Protocol, or just cut to the IMAX version. And unfortunately, it seems like on home video, they just keep it at 235 the whole time, which is, it's a consistent experience for the people watching the movie. I'm sure a lot of people would be like, hey, what happened to the TV? Did something weird just happen?
Right.
It's a shame because we put a ton of effort into those extra pixels that'll never be seen again.
Well, we're hoping that we can push them to put that IMAX, to release it in IMAX before the next one comes out.
Yeah.
Like do a little IMAX marathon or something.
But wasn't that reveal so lovely?
Oh my God.
Because the shot starts 235, right? It starts 235 and then it just gradually opens up.
Oh, it's so good.
Well, I guess this is a good time.
They did that in Fallout also.
Yeah. What was it like working with Brad Bird? Was there any more pressure because you are now doing visual effects for one of our generation's greatest animation filmmakers?
Well, he, like JJ, is an incredible storyteller and problem solver. And there's a precision to the way these two guys work, which is it's really a marvel to watch. And my wife was lucky enough to work with him on a previous show over at Pixar on The Incredibles, and so we feel very fortunate that everybody in this household has gotten to work with Brad Bird now. And his eye, it's kind of like it was very similar to JJ, where JJ's been working in TV for a long, long time before Mission Impossible 3. And this was his first feature film, a franchise sequel with a star producer. So it's like is a convenient testing ground, if you will, for first-time directors. But neither of these guys were really first-time directors. They were first-time live-action directors for feature films. But they've been around the block, and they both got all of the rhythms and pacings and all of the logistics of what it takes to make a movie. So when it came time for Brad to make this, it was just like any other. It was just like working with Spielberg or Michael Bay. It was just another great problem-solving director, and his keen eye of not wanting it worked very well with Tom's approach of filmmaking, which is and letting the action play in front of the camera. We're not, particularly with 4, with Ghost Protocol, to just let it all happen in front of us, and we're not going to do a bunch of fancy tricks to, kind of distract you or make you think that a magic trick is happening. Just do the magic trick right in front of us. Like when the car that gets hit when the IMF senior guy gets assassinated and the car corkscrews over the bridge. I mean, that was an amazing rig that was really corkscrewed on a blue screen stage. And they did that in real time and shot it at like a gajillion frames per second. Just let the shot play out. And that was an angle. Have you ever seen an angle like that in a movie before? No, of that kind of stunt. He brought a new, fresh sensibility to a lot of these shots. And that's what really got us excited about all this stuff.
Well, what other sequences did you work on in that one? I imagine you would probably had to do something with the sandstorm later on in that sequence.
Yeah, I was ILM touched ton of stuff. Let's see. Well, like the car corkscrewing, and then all the subsequent underwater shots. We did the Dubai sequence. We did the car park at the end.
That's the most Brad Bird shot thing in the world.
Yeah,
the different cars on different levels going up and down, and that whole ballet.
The outrunning the sandstorm, like you said, the sandstorm car chase. We did a little bit of augmentation there to help with storytelling. I mean, they were actually trying to build a sandstorm and doing a car chase in it, and you cannot. As amazing as the special effects guys were, you cannot completely blanket out the entire horizon, especially in Dubai. So we had to add additional sand wherever necessary. And then the sandstorm itself, when it's approaching, basically in the hotel rooms, whenever you're inside the hotel room looking out, that's all blue screen. And then the car park is pretty amazing because it's based on a real parking structure in Germany, I think. And they built this tremendous set in Vancouver of the actual set piece, but it's still as big as this thing is. It couldn't do everything, so we did set extensions for everything. So in some shots, half the shot is the practical, and the other half is CG, and there's several all CG shots in there as well of the car park, of the briefcase falling and landing and all this stuff. And even at ILM, we were having a hard time sometimes remembering when reviewing shots and dailies where the split line was of what was real and what was pretend for that whole sequence. Wow. And we had to wait. Where we get into arguments, and even the lighter was like, no, that car is CG, and everybody, let's cut to the plate. And okay, it is CG. And then we would have these weird situations where the real cars looked a little faker than the CG cars, and when you stare at footage for too long, you just see everything. And like I turned over one of the Dubai shots to a compositor, and it was one of the shots of actually Tom climbing the real Burj Khalifa. And I said, okay, here's what we got to do. Here's what's left to do on the shot and all this stuff. And he says, okay, but when is the matte painting going to get updated? And I said, no. This is everything I've been showing you is in-camera photography.
Wow.
Because from at that height and at that distance and the Dubai skyline, just the way the architecture is and everything, it kind of looks unreal. So this movie really, pushed the envelope of what, for all of us to judge what is real and what is not.
Yeah, it's crazy when you see that's why when you see how tiny the cars are moving on the street below.
You are obsessed.
I'm
with
obsessed
these
with
cars.
the tiny cars.
You should go there. I actually went to the building.
Oh, really?
We had a family vacation in the Middle East, and I cajoled it was on Christmas Day, and I said, we have to go to the Burj. We have to do it. And of course, we weren't up as high as Tom, but it is an amazing sight.
You were also
up there.
you were also inside the building.
I was inside the building. I saw a small framed photo of Tom Cruise. Yeah, which I think we put up on the website before.
They have a framed photo.
Oh yeah, it's like signed by him. Like, thank you. To the
great.
kings of the EU or whatever it is.
They should have like a robot cruise that just like animatronic. That.
Oh yeah, that goes out every once in a while.
Yeah,
and cleans the windows.
Well, I was just thinking they should have left that bridge up, and we would have gone, and we would probably be recording there right now.
Yeah, is that bridge still there in Calabasas in that field?
It is long gone.
And one of our favorite moments is the very incredible-y shot of the kind of like a street map on the screen inside the car.
Oh yeah.
Did you guys do that?
I can't remember the name of the company that was in. When there were a ton of graphics in this movie, and there are studios that all they do are
it's just graphics. Okay.
The computer graphics, and we got their graphics and comped them in, and every once in a while I think we would do our own. But again, what a great way to tell the story, because it is very literally disorienting. And how do you tell the audience what his plan is without, and there's no dialogue in that entire little bit. He's just, you got to figure out what he's trying to do. And I just love all that stuff so much.
Seems like a lot of people were trying to figure out what he was doing behind the scenes and what his motives were. But everything worked out. We're obsessed with that Vancouver set because there were like parts of other sets in that set too. Did you hear about this?
Oh no.
Where they would like build like a doorway for the prison in a corner of that set, and they'd shoot stuff and immediately send it into editorial and stuff like that in that same set with the car park. So if we could have been there, the things we would have seen.
Let's see. I'm just looking at my notes. The little lights on Tom's gecko gloves.
I wanted to ask about the gecko gloves. Yeah.
Oh, good. I animated those lights, like how they would go up and down, and based on how much friction he had or stiction he had, and all this stuff. So it was really, and then as an animator, Brad was a little bit specific about how he wanted all that to work. So
from our interactions with him, that doesn't really sound right.
But it was a real thrill to actually get something that he would like, and then later seeing the final movie with the sound and how he tied sound effects with the level of power and suction that it had. It lends that added bit of credence to it. And the fact that, like everything in the movie, almost all the gadgetry in the movie, it breaks. And the way it breaks and the way it flashes red. And so, I just love that.
And there's a fully animated glove, too, it's almost like a character in the movie, the one that comes back.
Yep.
After it flies away, yeah.
I was going to ask, was that animated, or did they actually throw a glove off the side of the building and let it go?
The ones that stick to the one that eventually came back and stuck, that's real. But the one of it flying away, that's CG. And we did a few iterations of that.
Wow, it's so cool.
Yeah, it looks great.
Well, Paul Hirsch was telling us that Brad went through the movie with him frame by frame. Which is amazing, and I'm sure, and was totally new for Paul Hirsch, and that he's actually used that on movies since, which is kind of interesting to talk about his sort of process.
Yeah, I mean, it was, and Paul was again a really great collaborator, because every once in a while they would come up, and Paul and John Knoll go back really long, so it was easy for Paul to call up John and say, we have a real problem shot right here, like of the reveal shot of when Tom is hanging off of the elevator in the car park, and he kicks the villain in the face, and we were really having a hard time making that work with the timing of the stunt that happened on set. So we took pieces of the frame, and I broke it apart, and I retimed certain parts, and I made a new camera move, and and Paul was, oh yeah, you got that's perfect. Now it has energy, and now it's doing what Brad wants, and it was these kind of collaborations are really special when there isn't any there's been plenty of productions where visual effects and editorial, they're sometimes at odds, and sometimes they don't really understand what each other is trying to accomplish, and when it all works together, it's so magical, and that's what it was like on both of these movies, frankly.
Well, it's funny, Paul Hirsch mentioned that he said, like, I've known the ILM guys since they were working out of a garage in Van Nuys.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Accurate.
I love that. What about the Kremlin blowing up in Ghost Protocol? Did you have anything to do with that?
Yeah, speaking of compositing, whoa, mama.
That whole, I mean, I don't think any actors were actually in Red Square at all. We had a team there to shoot a bunch of stills and photography, but no, that was again of Tom on the Vancouver lot on a cobblestone. They built this cobblestone and then a giant blue screen all around them, and they had some special effects mortars going off. And that was all ILM, and it was very specific choreography, how we wanted to see one explosion, then another explosion, and then we said, like, the catacombs or the gas lines underneath the cobblestone where he was started to ignite and blow up, and let's see, what did I put? If you look real carefully on some of those cars, which are all CG, there's some license plates on there. Oh, is that one of the A113s? I think I put on there. Yeah, I think I put an A113 on there.
That. Yeah,
it's a little Easter egg.
So yeah, but I'm sorry, I want to finish that one first. Tom was on a series of wires, and he would get blown up, and it was that was a very, very tricky shot to get right. The lighting and everything, it was a pretty crazy shot. I did the camera shake for that shot because I wanted it to, kind of like the I-3 shot. I wanted it to have a very specific feel to it, and like a building rumble, like at the very beginning of the shot. It's as if the danger is really far away, and then the tension, builds with every frame, and I wanted to reflect that in the camera shake as well. The other A113, I put a 113 in. This is another case where I think we ended up doing the graphics for the briefcase to turn off the nuke, to deactivate the nuke. And when he turns it off, he slams it down, his fist down. The last frame you see of the countdown on the monitor is 1 second and 13 milliseconds, whatever. So that's my 113 homage.
Love that.
Well, so and that's a reference to the room at Cal Arts or animation.
Right.
Were you also a Cal Arts person, or was that just for Brad?
No, that was just for Brad.
That's cool.
The things we do.
I don't even know if we told him about that one. I think I just tried to sneak that one in, and it worked in the cut. And maybe he knows about it, maybe he doesn't.
Yeah. Were there any miniatures in Ghost Protocol that you recall?
I don't.
They had that November release date. They didn't have any time for miniatures. Come on.
I really don't think we had anything. There's definitely stuff from our that we shot, elements of smoke and explosions and things like that were shot on our stage, but.
So that's something you do a lot. Like you have a stage at ILM that you will bring smoke in there and shoot those elements for each project.
We used to have a model shop, and it was spun off into a third party entity. But every once in a while, we do hire them. Like you mentioned, Lone Ranger earlier. We did a ton of miniatures with them, 3210 Studios, in San Rafael, California. From time to time, we will go to them. But I gotta say, these schedules and the production schedules and the need for flexibility make it really hard to build, do model shoots and build miniatures. We would all love to, for the right project, for the right shots. I'm sure, I don't know if you've heard about it. We did a tiny little miniature shoot for for The Mandalorian, the Star Wars TV series. And that was really exciting. And we were able to not only get shots out, but it helped inform how we would, because we built our own motion control rig and everything like that, which is reminiscent of how original Star Wars movies were, the Star Wars choreography of spaceships were made. It helped inform our animators how to animate spaceships to be in that world, and having a couple miniature shots really helped. And we would love to do it more often. It's just that these timelines are just too tight, and there's just not enough lead time to build this thing. And then once it's built, to have a filmmaker to have the courage to commit to that, because we are changing everything until the last minute. Some certain things in movies, you would have no idea that it was a decision that was made 6 weeks before release and only finished 4 or 3 weeks before release. That's just the way it is right now. So
is that mostly director driven, like indecisive directors, or is that more of a committee issue with other people getting involved, producers and things too?
It's all of it, and it's also working with when a movie is given a release date and the script isn't even written yet, you're already behind the 8 ball. And that, some filmmakers can do it, and some films are too important to be left to one person and and one voice. And it just, you can't get that kind of consistency. You can't get that kind of buy-off. That's why, we're doing some really amazing things now with rear projection and giant screens. I don't know if you saw like the work we did on Solo, or the work that was done on First Man or Interstellar. These beautiful LED screens that are projecting imagery that can be photographed in camera with actors, and providing illumination and providing the backgrounds. But you know what that requires? It requires the filmmakers to buy off and approve that look, that feel of the photography.
Right.
And that's a tough thing. And some would rather just, we'll shoot it against blue. And then we'll figure it out later, and we can, then we know we can change it right up until the last second.
That was something Christopher Nolan was doing on Interstellar also. Right?
He just
That's
said
right.
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed Interstellar. Sorry. I don't know if the Skype cut out or I'm just an idiot.
Yeah, it's Skype's fault.
I heard you say first.
Yeah,
did you say
fault.
First Man as well?
Yeah, First Man.
Yeah. That's
and
awesome.
Solo, which Todd did work on Solo.
That's awesome.
It's a Star Wars story. It's called Solo.
Okay, yeah. Thank you, Drew. I get it.
Okay.
Thank you, asshole. What about mask stuff? Did you do any mask stuff for either MI3 or Ghost Protocol?
We love the machine in 4.
It's
particular.
And the one in 3 also.
It's the same
3
machine.
Sid Mead
that's right.
designed that, right?
Yeah, I mean, there was a beautiful set. There was a beautiful prop that actually worked and everything, and then there's this handoff between the real thing that was on set that the makeup effects guys built, and then there's a handoff to that switcheroo when Tom puts on the Philip Seymour Hoffman mask is so great, and I don't know, I just love it. I love the gag of Philip Seymour Hoffman acting like Ethan Hunt is in a Davian mask.
It's our favorite
love that
thing.
whole thing.
It's so good.
Philip Seymour Hoffman as Tom Cruise as Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Yes.
Yeah, and I love the fact that when the camera pulls around and you're like, oh, okay, there's the gag, but the shot isn't over, and you see Ving Rhames like stretching what is effectively the mask, and what we're doing is taking Philip Seymour Hoffman's real face and turning it into a mask, and moving it around and giving it the proper reflections and what he's grabbing onto. And then when Ving Rhames puts his thumbs onto around his eyes to kind of pat it together. If you look, the way the mask folds back onto itself, and the audience is subconsciously going when the camera moved around that dark figure. They're like, oh, okay, now it's Philip Seymour Hoffman. But then all those extra little things happen, and it's like, and then it makes them go, oh, wait, what's going on here? Did he really put on a mask? What is he doing? And then the whole Texas switch down in the sewer.
Oh, we love
when
that
he
so
takes
much.
it off, and God, I love that stuff. But
I assume that Texas switch was just done practical. There were no visual effects.
Yeah, we didn't touch that. Yeah, as far as I know, we didn't touch that.
Yeah. We were talking to Barney Berman.
Oh, yeah.
And he was, we were blown away by how much of it was just on set mask stuff. It's pretty amazing, yeah.
Did you work with Barney at all on this?
No, we took what was photographed, we used as a basis, and then for the few CG shots that we had to deal with, it was incredible. Again, if we started with nothing, boy, it would have been a real pain. Starting from scratch. So even the shots of the carving, which is mostly CG, of the carving of the mask, if they didn't have that foam built, that foam basis at the beginning, that gave us incredible lighting reference and texture reference to start from. So, that's it. It all has to work together. Otherwise, we're creating this stuff from scratch, and we can do it. But if it's something that everybody likes and the actors can touch and feel and get a handle on, and it works a lot better.
Barney told us that he was especially proud of, they pull a mask off of who you think is Julia, but it turns out to be Philip Seymour Hoffman's translator, and
right.
Barney said he had to whip that together, and they had one take and he had one shot at it. Did ILM do work on that?
I think we had to tweak it a tiny bit to to add more contrast in the skin tones because the audience, even though what's his face says flat out, this is his translator, it's a little bit of a hard read. In the photography, their skin tones of the mask and what was revealed were a little bit too close. So we did a tiny little color correction. I don't think we did anything. And then the wider shot, which tilts up from that, I think we did a little bit more augmentation than just that. But for the most part, the actual ripping of the tear and everything, that's all his stuff, and it works so well.
Yeah.
Well, should we wrap up by? Well, first of all, are you ready for this?
Let me ask one quick thing.
Okay.
Did you work with, because Sid Mead is credited as designing that mask maker for both MI3 and Ghost Protocol. He's the great visual futurist or whatever the credit is that he has on Blade Runner and stuff like that. Did you work at all with him?
I think early on the art department did, but not me personally. But I've been to a few of his talks, and I can't get enough of them.
Well, he contributed stuff to Tomorrowland too, didn't he?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, big Tomorrowland fan over here.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
cool.
All the kind of what someone else might see as kind of a dip in your resume. I'm out there cheering for it. Lone Ranger.
He loves Lone Ranger and he loves Tomorrowland.
I do. I really do.
And both of those were also great experiences. Gore Verbinski is quite a genius in how he sets up choreography, and again, action sequences. There's nothing lazy in them, and Brad brought his typical manic energy to Tomorrowland, where I predominantly spent my time in the actual Tomorrowland sequence, particularly of the boy flying through with his jetpack, and talk about reflections of shiny buildings. Oh boy. That was hard.
I was gonna say whatever the sort of centerpiece sequence in that is, one of the most amazing visual effects maneuvers I've ever seen, and I'm sure was a huge pain in the ass for all of you.
That one big shot of her going through the simulation is just outrageous. It's so great.
Yeah.
Speaking of outrageous, I want to ask you. I'm gonna come out and say it that I'm actually a big fan actually of Transformers: Dark of the Moon,
I knew you
which
were
might
gonna
be
bring that up.
controversial, and I think that that movie is completely outrageous, totally insane, but it has some of the best like big spectacle. Insane sequences I've ever seen in a movie, and I love watching it just because of the insanity of that. And I just wanted to compliment your work on it and ask
thanks.
what it's like to work with Michael Bay, because people have obviously very mixed feelings on Michael Bay, but I think it's pretty undeniable that the visual effects in his movies are pretty amazing. And
He's
so
a real
I'm
talent.
curious to know what it's like working with him.
For that one, because I was on 1, 2, and 3, and for that one, I was a lead on the tilted building sequence. So the building
my
that when
God,
you cut to
so
that,
good.
and it's already tilting, and then later it crashes.
How did they do that?
Tom Martinek was the CG lead on that, and he's a guy I worked with for a long, long time on almost all these movies. And that building in Chicago, I grew up in Chicago, so I was uniquely suited for that role because that whole sequence takes place in Chicago. That building doesn't really live in that spot. It was an empty lot at the time, and the building itself is based on a building south of the Chicago River. So it's based on a real building. So every single shot you see of that building from the outside, it's completely false. It's a real, always starting with real photography as a background, but then we built a CG version of the broken building because I don't think we ever see it intact. It's always broken in some way. And then we did the whole thing of it breaking and landing on the other building.
Isn't there a big snake that's coming up the side of it?
Yeah. And then every single time you see the actors like Shia and everybody looking through the windows, that's all against blue screen stuff. So I was in charge of like trying to make sure that they were looking at the correct angle. Like when we're looking north, when we're looking south, I got to see the water tower here. I got to see NBC tower here. So that was pretty wild. One of the great things about Michael is that he always wants to start with photography. And even if there's the light is just right and he's in the middle of the desert, he will just send a unit out and go shoot some stuff, and then just film some empty plates and blow up something in the middle, and then we'll find a place for it. If the photography is cool, we'll find a place for it, and then he'll go back into the editing room, and then he will craft a place for that to live for a transformer coming in and entering frame, and that's their entrance into the scene. Working on something like one of his movies that are so plate-based, kind of like the Mission Impossible movies, is that the special effects guys, they just absolutely go to town with soot and dirt and stuff in the air. And when we have to put these robots in there, that, it's better for us to start with a clean slate. It's easier for us to then create that stuff. But when it has to be embedded in all that stuff, it's really hard for lighting. It's hard for compositing. So it really forces us to get on our A game. But it also means that the photography is his, and he loves it, and he wants the CG and everything to fit in the photography, which is, a really cool way to work. And you look at these movies and you cut together a montage of the Transformers movies, and it's mayhem. It really, it's nuts.
The scale of it is just always staggering to me. I just can't believe how to even just shoot these empty plates of where these giant robots are going to go just seems nuts. But so what, did they actually have a giant building rig that went, because all the Shia LaBeouf and all the characters,
there was a
they
live
go sliding across this floor.
There was a giant live action aspect to that. Yes. It's that set did move, and it only moved a certain number of degrees, but then you tilt the camera a certain way, and then just by adjusting the horizon line behind the windows, you can cheat a ton of like how tilted is this building. But
right.
that said, they built some tremendous set pieces for those movies.
Yeah. Next, I want to ask about Steven Spielberg. I know you worked on War of the Worlds. I'm a huge fan of War of the Worlds. I think it's really underrated.
And Indiana Jones.
And well,
yeah.
I I don't know if I would say Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is underrated. I actually did revisit it recently, and it was better than I remembered. I think that movie gets a lot of flack. But I do really love War of the Worlds so much. So I just wanted to hear, did you work on the tripods and all the stuff that were in that?
Yeah. I worked on a few shots of the, just all over the place. I worked on I spent a lot of time on this sequence that was ultimately cut from the movie, which was a real
where
shame.
You see the war?
Really?
No, it's
what kind of stuff?
It's called the Camelot sequence, and it might be on the DVD because I think we finished the whole sequence, and it's a very quiet sequence down a city street, and Tom and his family and his son and his daughter are hiding behind a truck, and a single tripod is walking down the street at night, and it's using its tentacles to just grab individual people out of apartments, and it's really chilling. But the sequence was cut for time. The shot of Tom, like he takes refuge in this barn, and then the barn just explodes because the tripod kicks through it. That was my shot. I always seem to get Tom running away from things.
Yeah, consider yourself blessed. I mean, come on.
A blast behind or in front of Tom, and yeah. But Spielberg, again, talk about a dream come true. There was this one moment in the production where when Tom's character ultimately gets grabbed and put in the basket of one of the tripods. Do you remember that?
Yeah, of course.
It all happens in a wide shot of him being picked up, and then at the very end they cut just before he gets thrown into the basket. And there was this elaborate camera move that Tom was photographed on to kind of follow. We were like maybe 10 feet away from Tom, but it was a little bit of a camera of God type situation where you're following, the camera's traveling with him, dozens of feet into the air and swirling around him, almost like a Spider-Man, shot from the Sam Raimi movies, where you're orbiting around him as he's being carried. And we were reviewing the shot, and at a certain point, Stephen was like, "You know what? This is just not working. I feel like this is just not right for our movie. Maybe we should just go the simpler route and just start with the wide and stay on the wide, and just let us enjoy the majesty of him being picked up and really soak in the scale of the situation." Of the scale of the humans versus the tripods, and then we'll just cut to the him getting dropped, which is really a bummer for all the people that worked on all that stuff, but it was the right call. It really, that shot stuck out like a sore thumb from a design point of view, and it just, at the time, it seemed like the best idea, and it was just so great to watch him, work it out and make one of those big directorial decisions right there, and it was the right call. Every little nugget of every sentence that he would say in these reviews, it was like, yep, that's gold. Yep, that's awesome. Yep. Oh yeah, okay, this makes sense. It's the guy who made Jaws. This all kind of checks out.
Yeah, he's got a pretty good resume, that guy.
Yeah. I think he knows what he's doing.
All right, we got some questions for you. First of all, a controversial question based on another movie on your resume. How are we feeling about Canto Bight? A couple years later, I'm very pro Canto Bight, so I just want to tell you that.
Is that the casino
That's
planet?
That's the casino planet.
I love Canto Bight.
Okay, we love Canto Bight. Okay, good. I'm glad. Charles had a dog that looked like a father as well, so he should be.
It's true.
I'm so sorry.
My Labradoodle who passed away last year, when she got a haircut at one point, she did look like one of those racing animals.
Yeah.
What are
you
they
never
called
you never tried to ride on top of the dog, right?
No, she was about 35 pounds, so no.
Okay. All right. When the fathiers go up on that field up in the moonlight, that was my sequence.
Oh, awesome!
I did the very first shot of before the fathiers kind of cut. You're looking just at Canto Bight, and of the city.
Where they're like searching the searchlights.
Yeah, you see searchlights and stuff, and then all of a sudden, just like a shock, the fathiers rose and everybody just appears in the frame. That was a really fun shot to do, and I got to animate everything that's going on in Canto Bight. It was a matte painting, but then I had to add, just kind of like the cars in Ghost Protocol, I did all of the little spaceships. I animated little people and searchlights and dance. Like some rooms where I had dance parties going on and I had traffic, and I made all these little stories in the shot, and that was a real fun. And Ryan Johnson he's just such a sweetheart and such an incredibly compassionate filmmaker. And yeah.
Do you like little spaceships as much as little cars, or?
I do. I love super tiny spaceships.
I like spaceships more because then I don't have to deal with their shadows. So
Okay.
I'm
'Cause
pro
they're
spaceship.
going through space. Got it.
That's nice.
All right. Well, should we do the hair rankings first?
Yeah. Let's
Todd,
see.
are you prepared for this?
Yeah. I think you.
I'm asking you about ranking Tom's hair
in just the Mission
in
Impossible
just the Mission
movies.
Impossible movies.
So it's easy. It's much easier.
It's much easier, but still, I hope you put some thought into it. This has been a real area of contention for us.
Yeah.
I think 3. I think
3 is the
1.
best?
3 is the best.
Okay.
I think 1. It's right on the edge of a crew cut, which, we're still trying to figure out who Ethan Hunt is in Mission Impossible 1. There wasn't a lot of depth of character, and then 2. It's just it's all for for style and head swings in slow motion. I think 3 was just the right the length. I think it was a good length for Tom and a good length for Ethan. 4 was a little longer.
So beautifully styled, though.
Yeah, really nice and
Yeah, really. He's got kind of this great kind of wave that we talk about.
Now,
Wait, so what is your second place then? Are you
saying
still
two,
are you
he's
just
saying
kind of
number
considering
one.
all of them?
Yeah,
or-
I'm gonna say number 1 is Mission Impossible 3, and then I liked how he looked in Fallout and Rogue Nation.
Yeah, those are very similar cuts.
Yeah.
We like the cut in the first one. He's like a military. Maybe he's just out of sort of military school or something. He's a young.
He's letting it go
yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Like slowly coming in.
Yeah, but he
Well,
wants
he
people
is
to
the
take him
most
seriously.
naive one. He is the most
Yeah.
naive on the team,
Yeah.
right?
It's interesting because we've revisited 3 recently for a few episodes. We did our commentary for 3 recently, and that's what I've been saying that lately, right? That I've been saying that the hair in 3 is underrated.
Oh, it is underrated. He looks great.
I'm pro 3.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard for Tom Cruise to look bad. Let's be honest.
Well, so what's the lowest then? I mean, you have your top 3 now. I don't know if you want to continue your rankings or just give us your last place. Like, what's the worst hair? Or least best, let's say.
As you know what, as someone whose hair is just departing my body, I am in no place to just call somebody having worst hair. I am in no position to give a last place. So I pass.
Wow.
Okay.
All right.
All right. That's fair.
It's very political, Todd, but whatever. I know you're vying for that 7 and 8 contract. We gotta keep it all above board.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this is the big question. Can you rank the Mission Impossible movies?
Well, the Mission Impossible movies, especially the ones I've worked on, they're kind of like my kids. So of course I have a favorite. No. 3 and 4, I'm so close to those. I cannot have objectivity.
Okay. Do you want to take those out of the listings and rank the
love
other
them.
ones?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
all right. So now you're gonna force me to get all meta about the franchise, because what was great about 1 and 2 and 3 is that each one of them carries the stamp of their filmmaker. I mean, they are definitely their filmmakers' movies. And 4 was Brad's, but it kind of got the franchise into a solid rhythm that McQuarrie kind of continued, which is the reluctant hero. Ethan is reluctantly getting into these things, and he is not like he's not smirking, and he's not the typical type of action hero. So, I mean, I knew this was coming.
Yeah.
And I wasn't ready.
You had literally months to prepare for this. I think
I
you
know.
probably have
I
worked
did,
on this.
We've been
and I'm
talking to
gonna
you for like a year,
keep
yeah.
dodging. Did you see the cut of Fallout that somebody did on the internet, where they basically made Fallout into a silent movie?
Yeah,
we
we
put it
posted
up.
that. Yeah.
That is so incredible, and I was like, "Oh, this will be good for a laugh." And I turn it on, and I'm like, and my wife, who she really enjoyed Fallout, but she's like, "What are you watching?" And I'm like, "This guy did a tremendous job of basically adding sound effects and music, but no dialogue to this movie. And we're sitting there and we're watching it and we're totally enraptured into it.
Yeah.
And we're like, we looked at our watch and, oh my God, we've been watching this for an hour.
Yeah.
And I thought I was just going to watch 5 minutes.
Yeah, a guy sent that to us as part of our mailbag episode, I think. Right?
Yeah, Fallout is just an incredible piece of work.
You know,
no matter how you cut it.
For degree of difficulty, Mission Impossible Fallout as the 6th movie of a franchise. Okay, there you go. That's my favorite.
That's number one. Okay.
Yeah,
okay,
because
well,
it had the highest degree of difficulty.
All right, keep going.
Remember, I'm excluding 3 and 4, which I think are tremendous.
Yes.
I'm a huge De Palma fan. I love the first one.
Us too.
Yeah. You didn't work on Snake Eyes, did you?
I did not, but it was an
Stu
ILM
did.
production.
Yeah, Stu worked on it.
We talked to Stu about it. We had to.
Yeah.
And then what do we got left?
2
and
5. Yeah.
and Rogue Nation. Since I gave Fallout the top spot, I'm going to say Mission Impossible 2, then Rogue Nation after that.
Okay.
Interesting.
I like, Mission Impossible 2 is glorious, and it's a John Woo movie, and it's in slow motion, and Hans Zimmer's score, Tandy Newton, there's a lot to like about it.
For sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it gets unfairly maligned.
Yeah.
Well,
there's so many cool sequences in that movie. It's shot so well.
It is cool. It is fucking cool.
Yeah. Well, Todd, do you want to plug anything? I mean, you've got a small art house movie coming out at the end of the year. That I'm sure really needs our help.
I mean, how many Star Wars movies have you worked on now?
I've worked on six feature films. Is that right? Yeah, 6.
It's more than either of us have worked on. I'll tell you that. So, well, I will say to check out your Twitter because you're awesome on Twitter. I've been looking at your stuff from our account, so I just followed you. So you have to follow me back now on Twitter. That's moral obligation. Yeah, but okay. You have great sort of insight into the technical process on a lot of movies and things that you wouldn't think about, like the time costumes in Endgame, and it's just always refreshing, and you learn things, but not in a super nerdy way. I listened to the Weta guys talking about Gemini Man a few weeks ago, and I fell into a deep coma. So I really appreciate the way that you articulate things.
We always love that you always bring back. You have like running threads that you come back to all the time. So like split diopter shots, which we love. Split diopter, obviously we love Brian De Palma, so we love split diopter shots. You always bring back stuff about that. Yep. You have threads about like motion control shots that are split screens or whatever. You'll have like threads about what's another one? Texas Switch.
Yep.
We've been engaging with you about whenever we come across Texas switches, we DM them to you.
Yes.
Yep. And keep that coming. I love them.
I actually did one in the opening shot. If it holds, of this movie that I just did for Hulu and Blumhouse. The opening shot has a Texas switch, so if it holds and they'll let me keep it in, then
you called it the Vaziri. You said this is the Vaziri.
Yeah.
Now
we're doing the Vaziri shot.
Yeah.
No. What you have to do is combine a Texas switch with a split diopter shot. Now, no, I don't think anybody's ever done that before.
No,
you could
that's
be
a
the
good
first.
call. We actually do have a split diopter shot in it too.
Nice.
Wow. Yeah. And did you work on Mandalorian? Should we plug that or?
I did not work on a Mandalorian, but all my friends did, and boy, it looks so beautiful.
Yeah, that new trailer. Did you see the new trailer?
Yeah, it looks awesome.
I'm a charter member of Disney Plus now, so just to see the Razor Crest in action, that's the ship.
It's
the
pretty
ship
cool.
is called the Razor
I
Crest.
I was on when John shot the miniature for the Razor Crest. I was able to sneak in and take a peek, and that was really cool.
You know, we're not gonna say what you should or shouldn't do at your workplace. That's obviously a sacred space. But
no, go ahead.
If you walk by John Knoll and you say,
I know a couple of dorks. They've spent 3 hours in Brad Bird's house pestering him, among other things, and we really think you'd like him. Like these guys. I'm just saying, should it come up? Should you bump into him at the coffee pot? Just, If John Knoll's at the water cooler, I really wish I could be on a podcast.
Yeah. You guys are talking about
You just
last
said that today. That's so weird.
I literally saw him at the elevator of the hotel that I was staying at Star Wars Celebration, and it was one of those things where I like ran towards him, and he had already gotten in the elevator.
Oh. He was pushing the button to make the elevator close. He was like, "Oh shit, it's that Light the Fuse guy."
Yeah. So it was a very close call, but
we'll get him.
And
he's also one of the warmest, sweetest people you'll ever meet. He's so generous with his time and his knowledge. There's nothing, the ILM spirit is that. A good idea can come from anywhere, and he is so supportive of everybody there. And he's been a wonderful mentor. And don't worry about him. He doesn't have an aversion to dorks.
Okay.
He's surrounded by them.
Right.
He's soaking in them. So yeah.
Well,
I wouldn't worry about that.
We have to thank you for your time.
Yeah, and I feel like we didn't even give you a chance to answer if you have anything you want to plug.
I got
nothing to plug. Go see a Star Wars.
Right. See a Star Wars, ride a Star Wars in January or December, depending on where you are.
Yeah.
And
because you worked on the ride at Disneyland as well, right?
Rise of the Resistance.
Yeah. Todd, thank you so much for being on Light the Fuse and accepting this mission. It meant the world to us to finally have you on and to hear these amazing stories. And we've been staring at your resume for the past hour and a half, and it's truly staggering.
Yeah, tremendous.
What you've done.
Amazing.
Yeah, you're very kind. I love the podcast, and I'm so happy to have been on.
And we're back. Whew. How you feeling after this marathon?
I feel great.
Limber?
I loved both these guys.
They were great.
Stu and Todd.
I hope we can still reach out to them.
Yeah. We got to get John Knoll.
Yes.
We got to track him down without scaring him too much.
Right.
I think in this episode you might have told the story about tracking him down at the
yeah.
I think he'll do it.
We'll get him.
I think
the next time I'm at ILM, I'm just gonna find his office and just camp out.
Yeah. That won't be creepy.
It won't be weird. No.
There was actually one thing that Todd brought up in this episode. He talked about the corkscrew shot that Brad Bird did. And he was like, when have you ever seen anything like that? Mm-hmm. And then just a few days after we interviewed him, I was just rewatching The Game, the David Fincher movie, and he kind of does that corkscrew shot.
Really?
It doesn't go to the same level, but when Michael Douglas is trapped in the cab?
Yes.
And it goes off the pier?
Yes.
He does it, just not to the same extent.
Right. And there also is something similar in Let Me In.
Yes.
The Matt Reeves remake, Let the Right One In.
Yes. Yeah. But was that after?
That was 2009.
Oh, it was?
I believe so.
And Ghost Protocol was 2011.
Yeah.
Okay, well, there you go. But that one wasn't into the water. Did it flip over? It
did flip over. It was 2010. It was the scene where
Richard Jenkins
is in the back kidnapping somebody. Yeah.
That was cool.
Yeah, that's a cool movie.
I mean, that's just such an awesome shot. That whole and it's so great.
Beautiful
Ghost Protocol and God, it's so great.
I think it's less about who had it first or whatever, but just filmmakers who are technologically inclined to use the tools that are available in a really interesting, fun way.
Totally. Yeah, I wasn't trying to one up or
anything. No.
It was just interesting that he brought it up, and then I was like, oh, I saw it. It's very briefly in the game, but it's in there.
Yeah.
When he goes into the water. The water in San Francisco.
Oh, that's a terrifying scene.
I know. I love that movie.
It's a great movie.
It was cool to revisit it.
And if you want to revisit, maybe just visit things for the first time. We got a lot of exclusive stuff on Patreon. I'll tell you that right now.
Yes, we do. Patreon.com/LightTheFuse. Sign up for the bonus content.
Extra interviews, commentaries, news, weekly or monthly. God, imagine if it was weekly. We couldn't pull that off. Monthly Skype chat.
There are a couple things a month.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a commentary for one of the movies.
Yeah.
Every month. And always doing little bonus interview stuff. And
I want to bring in people to do the commentaries with us when we're done. That's my idea.
Oh.
Yeah.
To have someone have Todd come in and do
go to Eddie and watch Rogue Nation
and have him
do it. Yeah. That's my idea for the next phase. So just imagine that.
And then we can prompt them with questions.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Why didn't you ever tell me that before?
I just like
just thought of it right now.
Yeah. Well, because I thought, MI3 has a lot of supporters. MI2 has a lot of supporters. I thought we could get somebody from the critical community. We haven't had any journalists on yet. I mean, I'm loosely a journalist, so yeah.
You're a journalist.
I'm a journalist. Okay. But yeah, we're working on that.
We're working on getting a couple of people.
We got a big fish that we've been trying to land for a while.
Yes.
Who does not return our emails. So hopefully that'll happen. But in the meantime, please like, subscribe, rate, review wherever you're listening to this.
Yes.
Reach out to us, email us, questions, ideas, prompts for future episodes, people you want us to talk to. Because listen, the next movie isn't coming out until 2021. We got a lot of weeks to go.
Yep. A lot of people to interview.
Yeah.
A lot of good stuff coming.
Yes. You want to give us the credits for this episode?
Oh, yes. Well, this episode is brought to you by Jeremy Dillon. And a special thank you to Thomas Jeffroy. Thank you to all of our Patreon subscribers. And
Mixed by?
yeah, it was mixed by Luke Burson. Thank you.
Yeah?
And yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed Kevin Blumenfeld's music.
Yeah.
Kevin scores our show, came up with the legally dissimilar main theme.
Yeah.
And then the pretty similar.
Pretty much a rip.
Pretty much the.
Yeah.
It's his version of the plot theme.
Yes.
So, sue away, Paramount.
You need to find him. He'll probably be at a soccer game or working on. Well, he did the music for your movie that's coming out next month.
He's a big LAFC fan.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can find him at LAFC games. He does have season tickets.
And you got your movie coming out.
So
pretty soon after this.
Yeah. So this is out in what, October?
Yeah.
So the movie will be out in December.
Okay.
On Hulu.
First week of December, probably.
Yeah, first week of December on Hulu. But we'll make sure to let everybody know.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't worry.
Okay. Good. I just want to make sure you're covered. Okay. All right. Thanks so much for listening, guys, and we'll be back next week.
Thanks again for listening, everyone. And before we go, another mission, should you choose to accept it. Please rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes. And remember that you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at LightTheFusePod and email us questions or comments at lightthefusepodcasts@gmail.com. If you'd like to watch the original Mission Impossible television show, all 7 seasons are currently available to stream on Amazon Prime. This message will self-destruct in 5 seconds.